Okay, guys, so we have the big fight coming up here this Saturday night, and on the undercard of Berlanga and Canelo is Danny Garcia versus Erislandy Lara, and I actually think this is the fight I'm going to watch of the two. My guess might be the fight of the year. So yeah, we had Danny with the big amateur background here. He was 2006 USA national champ. He's also 2005 under 19 national champion. He had an amateur record of 107 wins, 13 losses, and he's boxed a total of 282 professional rounds. He was the alternate for the 2008 Olympics as well. And on the other hand, we got Erislandy Lara, and he had a huge amateur record. He was 310 wins, only 10 losses. Of course, he was the national champion and also the team captain. And he's three-time national champ, and he was world champion in 2005, and he also won the World Cup in Moscow in 2005. All that was at the 147-pound limit. And yeah, I mean, he had this little thing where he kind of like tried to defect from Cuba. I believe it was like during like the 2007 Pan Am Games, and the whole like political thing happened, and they kind of got caught or whatever, only for him to finally defect maybe like a year or two later to the United States. Now he calls himself the American Dream, and yeah, just massive amateur record that he had. He even had a win over Demetrius Andrade. He beat him 9-4, and yeah, he never quite made it to that 2008 Olympics because he defected. So they wouldn't let him go. But yeah, anyways, so Danny made his way at 140 as a pro, and he had this big win right here over Lucas Matisse. And a lot of people thought Matisse was gonna win that fight. Danny ended up knocking him down and getting the job done. So yeah, so Danny was unified champion at 140. And he also, was made famous for the no-look left hook against Amir Khan. This is probably the knockout that put him on the map right here as a pro. And yeah, it was a huge upset. And yeah, it's 140. Danny was the king. He even went up against another southpaw, Zab Judah. So Danny does do good against southpaws. And he definitely had a good little war with Judah, and Danny came out on top on that one. And then he decided it was time to move up to the next weight class, try and get some belts at 147. And he did manage to beat Robert Guerrero and got one of the titles there at 147, and tried to unify against Keith Thurman. And yeah, he ended up losing in a split decision. It was a very close fight. I mean, to be honest, I had at the end of the fight, I felt that fight could have gone either way. I thought Danny, maybe did enough to win that fight, but he was the guy coming on in the back half of the fight, and Thurman was fading, running, but Thurman came on at the beginning of the fight, and probably the only one to really ever come close to knocking Danny down. He was a first or second round, but with that sixth toe, Danny was able to stay on his feet and get back into the fight. But Danny was a little bit more of a wild fighter back in those days, and he's not. He really have to take my hat off to Danny, because he really, went back to school after that fight and, corrected some of his mistakes that he made in that Thurman fight, and got back to more, some more technical fighting. And, so Danny, he's definitely, had his share of setbacks as a pro. I mean, of course, in the beginning, in the middle, it was all wins and knockouts and stuff like that. But, once he started facing the more elite opposition, he definitely had a few setbacks. So yeah, but then he'd always come back, and here's another big knockout overhand right counter punch he landed against Brandon Rios, and that was a classic KO punch right there, and the kind of counter punching that Danny knows how to do, why what makes him dangerous. And yeah, so Danny used that fight to kind of get back on the map again, and get back into the title contention. And so he went back at Sean Porter for the next fight, and I thought that I thought that was a ripoff on that fight, man. I thought Danny definitely won that fight. I mean, he dictated probably the first 4 or 5 rounds of the fight, and I kind of felt like the judges maybe got lured in by all the volumes of punching that Porter was doing. But there wasn't a whole lot of effective punching that was happening there. And Danny was landing all the big shots, yet he lost. I think it was a unanimous decision, but it was very close. But yeah, I thought Danny won that fight hands down. But yeah, so but Danny got back to tax there like he always does, and came back with definitely one of the biggest fights of his career with Errol Spence. Just kind of fought at a funky time. He had COVID-19 going on, and the fight was in the bubble. Errol was coming back from that car crash. But the only injuries disclosed for Errol was he heard damage to his teeth, and he had like over a year to train for that fight, or about a year, and he was in way better shape than if you were to look at him versus Sean Porter when Errol Spence fought Sean Porter, and Errol put on a great fight, man, no doubt about it. And maybe slightly outlanded Danny with the jab there, but Danny had his moments in the fight. He came on late, and he mounted a comeback that the commentators ignored. And he buzzed Errol at the end of the 11th round, knocked his mouthpiece out, spun him in a 360, but the bell rang. So, and there was only one more round after that, and Errol was able to get the win there, the unanimous decision. But didn't set Danny back. I mean, he just took a little layoff there again, and came back against Benavidez, who this guy he gave Terrence Crawford a run for his money, man. And but Crawford was able to stop Benavidez late, and Danny wasn't able to stop him. But I mean, he definitely put on a master class, and maybe Benavidez won a few rounds, maybe 2 or 3 rounds or something like that. But I mean, Danny definitely won the rest. And although it was a majority decision, I don't think anyone agreed with that. It was very clearly cut, a win for Danny, unanimous decision win for Danny there. And first fight with 100, the bigger 10-ounce gloves at 154. And Danny went into another little layoff right there, and I guess somewhere in that time frame his dad had a stroke, so I'm glad he's healthy and back. And they went, this fight with Lara's been, they've been talking about it for quite a while, but got canceled a few times, and I guess because Showtime Boxing went under, and so they were having a hard time putting the fight together. And but yeah, talk about Lara here. So I mean, the thing that I think about with Lara is that he has been knocked down a few times. So he fought this guy Angulo, which is the guy's probably similar in size to Danny, and he was able to capitalize on a few left hooks on Lara. Dropped Lara twice, the first 2 knockdowns in Lara's career as a professional. And I mean, you got to give credit to Lara because after the second knockdown, he came back with his own kind of quick counter punch combination. He caught Angulo in the eye, and Angulo's eye, puffed up real bad, and he basically just quit, and so credit to Lara on that. But, I definitely wouldn't consider Angulo like some super highly skilled, fighter like Danny is. And, he was able to get through that defense a couple times in that fight there. So, that's definitely something that kind of sticks to my memory right there. And then, but credit to him, he came back from it, and didn't let it set him back. And he was later, went on to fight Jarrett Hurd, in which I thought was really, really good fight. I mean, that was real war. And Hurd's kind of a guy who he's a big dude for, I think that was a fought at 154, but he looked more like a super middleweight or a light heavyweight in that fight. And but he's not really Hurd's not really like a super technical guy. He's kind of a guy who just comes at you, throws caution to the wind. And I don't think, I wouldn't say that he gets all of his leverage in his punches, but, the very last round, he was able to, bounce off the ropes and land a clean left hook on Lara, and boom, send him down. So I mean, that just kind of sticks in my mind right there because, again, that's Danny's bread and butter punch, the left hook. So, to me, there seems to be kind of a little bit of an issue with Lara as far as coming out of the clinch, not really seeing that left hook coming through. And so I'm sure, hopefully Danny and his dad are, paying attention to this video, man, because, that's definitely, something you got to look at right there. If you're looking for, where's my opportunity going to be at to become the 160-pound, strap holder and, third belt in 3 divisions. You really gotta study your guy there and find out where his weaknesses are. And of what I've seen, that's kind of really the only weakness I've seen in Lara. But Lara's he's a changed fighter. I mean, now he kind of he fought Canelo. He was he was a mover, and I think Canelo only landed like 97 power punches on Lara in that entire fight. But that was again back when Lara was a sticker and a mover, counter puncher, and now Lara's of course almost 42 years old, and so he's not that same mover anymore. He's kind of adapted to kind of a different style, still counter punching, but not nearly as much moving, and but yeah, I mean you can see he gave Canelo a run for his money. A lot of people did think that Lara outpointed Canelo that night. But, being the champ and all that, and, Canelo's got the big name, and, he got that decision right there. But, yeah, so now we got this fight Saturday night, man, in Las Vegas. And, man, it's going to be a great fight. I'm definitely looking forward to it. Lara's got a 60% KO percentage. Danny's at 56.76% KOs. And I got this broken down in about like 13 different categories. And starting with speed, I got giving the slight edge to Lara on the speed. Got an asterisk there next to Danny because he's coming up in weight. So I mean, don't be surprised if he's the faster guy in there. But I got 2 X's in the category for reach for Lara because he's got over a 6-inch reach advantage. So that's about 3 inches on each arm. So Danny's gonna have to fight this one smart. Stamina, I got to give that one to Danny. Lara did fade late against Hurd, and had that had he not landed that combination against Angulo, it's hard to say, how that fight would have ended up. But Chin, I got to give that to Danny because, I mean, hey, he's never been knocked down. But, kudos to Lara. He's never been knocked out either. He's been knocked down, but never knocked out. Experience, I'm giving that to Danny. He definitely has more pro rounds fought. He's got the bigger resume. He's fought more title fights. He's fought more bigger names. Of course, Lara did fight Canelo, but after Canelo, the only real big guys in his name are like, Jared Hurd, Brian Castano, Austin Trout. He did fight Andre as an amateur, but I mean, most of those fights, other than Trout, were either losses or a draw. And then in terms of defense, I'm going to give that to Danny. He's never been knocked down. How can you argue that? Power, I'm going to give that to Lara just because he's the more natural, 160 guy, although he's going to get drained down 3 pounds. He's being fought at catch weight at 157. I'm going to say the jab. I'm going to give that to Lara. Pretty close, though. Danny's got a very effective jab. He lands it well to the body. He lands it to the head. He sets up a lot of his punches with it. But he's not going to have the longer reach, so I'm going to give that to Lara. And then body punching, though, definitely to Danny. That's going to be an area where he's definitely going to have to capitalize on the fight, try and tire the old man out late. And then, but uppercuts I got to give definitely to Lara because Danny never really throws the uppercut, but Lara definitely does. It's a dangerous punch actually for Lara. Technical, I'm going to give that even. They're both very technical fighters, and they're more thinking fighters rather than just come forward. And trainer, corner, I'm going to say that's even. Both guys have really good corners. Danny's been with his team forever, his dad and his brother forever, the whole time. Whereas Lara, he's had Ronnie Shields for a while. Shields is, trained many Hall of Famers. But the intangibles, counterpunching, age, timing, I'm giving that to Danny. So we got this one an exact tie. We got 8-8 with 3 asterisks. So on paper, this fight is an absolute draw. But I'm gonna give my lean towards Danny here and getting his 3rd world title because, I think that if he can, off the clinch, land that left hook, if he can make it more of an in-fight. Because when I watched that Angulo fight, Lara definitely struggled on the inside because Angulo's a guy with a shorter reach. And he brought that fight to the inside, and Lara was having a hard time, connecting up. Lara's the kind of guy he wants to keep you on the end of his punches, and Angulo got inside of that and made it a tough night for Lara. So, by the end of this one, I definitely got Danny winning this fight. I think it's going to be a tough fight. I think Danny's going to have to make a change in this fight. So Danny, I would say, he's fought kind of safe in a lot of his fights where he kind of stays kind of in his same little, his little stance that he's in, and he doesn't really, you know, change from plan A to plan B. And he's going to have to make that change in this fight, I think. He's going to have to, you know, get in on, in order to land those big punches, you have to get in on Lara, you know, get inside of his reach, get under those hooks, you know, get in that clinch, get, you know, hit him on that left hook on the clinch, get him to the body. And he's going to have to dig deep to win this one. You know, I don't think it's going to be easy, but I think he's, you know, this fight, if he get into the later rounds, I think he's got a good chance of either taking this fight by decision or getting the knockout against Lara. But he's going to have to, you know, he's definitely going to have to come with his A+ game. He's not going to be able to make any mistakes. You know, he's going to have to be very careful of Lara because, you know, even though Lara's, you know, almost 42, he's a very dangerous puncher. But, hey, enjoy the fight, guys. I've been looking forward to this one for quite a while. And Skin Dog Boxing. Peace out.